ESPN.com. Glad to have Josh Jacobs joining us here on our phone line. He covers the Cardinals this year for MLB.com. He's a host of the Dylan the Cards podcast. He's also a site expert at the Redbird Rants. I mean, he's doing a little bit of everything. He's got every hand in on the Cardinals coverage. So, Josh, welcome in this morning. How we doing?
I'm great, Rusty. How are you?
Doing well. Glad to have you with us. Cardinals get a nice win last night. And, Josh, Lars Nootbaar is back. Had a couple of hits last night, a big double that scored, a run as well. Look, man, I got to ask, with Nootbaar back, you have Nathan Church, Arias kind of on the way here soon. How do you foresee this roster taking shape for the Cardinals?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they, especially with Church and Arias coming back in the next few days, how they handle which of the guys do they allow to continue to have runway at the big league level, and does someone like a Victor Scott end up getting a trip down to Memphis, even though that definitely wasn't the plan this year? I think they've been very high on Scott and what he can provide defensively in center field, and they think there's a lot more in his bat than what he's been able to provide. But at some point, when you've been that below league average as a hitter for that sustained amount of time, over the course of multiple years at this point, he might be the odd man out when Nathan Church returns. And with Urias, that's kind of a Brian Torres situation as well. Torres has been really fun to watch so far. I think he's a guy that actually might have a multi-year future with the Cardinals as a utility man off the bench. But when they're at full health, there's a little bit of a roster crunch here. I don't see Urias going anywhere anytime soon, especially with the questions at third base. So I would just look for Brian Torres and Victor Scott to potentially be the two guys who potentially could be heading down to Memphis. Now, if Scott or Torres goes on a run here over the next few weeks, they could make a decision on a Nelson Velasquez or Jose Fermin, but both of those guys would require designating for assignment, and you potentially lose them to waivers. So I kind of think the Cardinals will be careful with those two and want to hold on to them for a little bit, but it'll definitely be interesting to watch. I do think their play over the next week, 2 weeks before Church and Urias return will say a lot about whether they get to stick on the roster.
Yeah, and, it makes me wonder, too, with Newt back, it lengthens the lineup a little bit, and that's something the Cardinals need because, the back end of the lineup has been a struggle so far this year for the Cardinals. You look as a whole, 17th in stolen bases, 25th in hits in the league, 23rd in walks. They're, 25th in strikeouts, 21st in OPS, 25th in total bases. So I guess my question is, are we seeing the norm? Is this what we can expect from the offense, or should we expect better results with some of these guys coming back?
I think it depends on if you want to take that glass half full, glass half empty approach. I'd say the optimistic review of this is if you look at the Cardinals' top four in their lineup right now, JJ, Yvonne, Burleson, and Walker, those four combined, compared to every other top four in baseball, are top five in average on base percentage, slugging percentage, OPS. I think they're maybe like 7th, 8th range in a couple of those, but they're producing like one of the best top fours in the game. Now, when you go through the 5 through 9 before tonight when Lars Nootbaar returned, I know he's batting leadoff last night, they were a bottom 3 unit in all of baseball, 5 through 9 compared to all other lineups in baseball. And so you look at that, the top 4 is doing its job, more than doing its job. It's the bottom of the lineup that needs that oomph and that lift. Lars Nootbaar will be a huge part of that equation. He's easily their 5th best bat in the lineup right now. It'll be curious to see if I think they'll bat him 5th, but I think you can make an argument that you could do some shuffling, maybe move JJ more toward the middle of the order, have Lars Nootbaar lead off. But that instantly already lengthens the lineup in an impactful way. The Cardinals obviously brought up Jimmy Crooks last week, and I think the more he gets adjusted to the level, you could see a raise in production there. Nathan Church has been a better hitter than Victor Scott this year, so if he's healthy playing in center field, that's a lift right there as well. And then they do have a couple more levers they could pull at some point in the year. Joshua Baez is obviously killing it at AAA right now, but the question is, where do you play him? And then same with like a Blaze Jordan. Could he be a right-handed bat off the bench at some point? The one spot in the lineup right now that I don't think we have an answer for other than what you're seeing right now, and I think we can get into it, is Nolan Gorman. And that's the one spot in the lineup right now where he's just got to turn things on, or else that's kind of the production you're getting. But I see almost every other spot in the lineup, whether it's Mason Wind getting hot late or heating up lately, and I think we can see more out of his bat, or opportunities to upgrade from guys coming off the IL or coming up from Memphis. So I do think the return of Lars Nootbaar is the start of maybe seeing this lineup get back to producing more like an above-average unit that we see most of the year. But obviously the overall numbers show that it's been pretty rough as of late, but the top 4 is doing its job. So as long as they can strengthen the bottom of the lineup, I think they'll be okay.
You alluded to Gorman, and let's go ahead and talk about him. And bear with me here for a couple of minutes. I'm going to try to set up the question, so just bear with me, Josh. But, look, I've been trying to rattle my brain. Okay, what can the Cardinals do here to try to get some more production there at third? My first thought was like, all right, I was looking in some of the minors, some of the stats. Look, I see that there's been about 50 starts at third base for Brian Torres, and then I figure out, he hadn't played there since 2021, so that's probably not an option. So you look at him, maybe you shift him over to second, put Weatherholt at third. Do you really want to do that? He's been so good at second. Trying to figure out, okay, do you stick with Gorman, just let it ride out? He's had some time. He's had the ability to have kind of a runway over the last couple of years. He hasn't really taken charge of that. He has moments, Josh, where you look at him, it's like, okay, he had the home run the other night, and you're like, all right, is this a, stepping off point that he starts to do something here? But there's only been flashes of the pan. There hasn't been that consistent play, but there's not any other great options, like you mentioned, behind him. I don't know that Blaze Jordan is that option because the Cardinals are pretty much telling you in the minors that it's not an option because they're not playing him at third base. So what do you do? How much runway do you give Nolan Gorman? How long do you ride with him? What other options do we got, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think a great way to or a comparison that we can do here is look at how they just handle the catching position. The Cardinals have time and time again doubled down on how much they love Pedro Pages. Anytime I've talked to anyone with the Cardinals organization, in private, publicly, doesn't matter, I've never heard a negative word said about Pedro Pages. But the Cardinals came to a point when they realized Jimmy Crooks is ready for the major leagues, and there's upside there that Pedro Pages doesn't have. And so they were willing to make the call and to adjust their roster and put Pedro into a reduced role. Nolan Gorman, I think they like him, and I think they're optimistic and hopeful, but they don't have the same conviction behind him as they've had with the Pedro Pages. And so I don't think they're hesitant to make a move if there's the right person to go to. But I think you just illustrated that. I know everyone's calling for Blaze Jordan, but like you said, if the Cardinals are serious about him being a third base option, he would be playing third base in Memphis every single day right now, but he's not. He hasn't played there since they called up Jimmy Crooks, and they could put him at more first base DH at a full-time basis. Brian Torres, I do think that's a lever they could pull at some point if they felt like it. I doubt. I've heard some people suggest maybe move J.J. Weatherholt to third base. I just don't see that with how incredible he's been defensively at second base. And then, Urias could get more playing time there, so he's probably the next man up. And I know he's not the flashy name, but he's posted multiple above-league average seasons at the plate with gold level defense before, so he could be a win-now-ish option they could go to. But I think it's also important for us all to remember that this year was about opportunity. It was about the future. It's about the big picture. And I think the Cardinals look at Nolan Gorman, and even if it's just a 10% chance he becomes the guy they think he can be, that's probably more of what they want to lean on and give opportunity to than to see Jose Fermin get third base opportunities, to see Brian Torres there, to see Ramon Urias there. And clearly they don't view Blaze Jordan as that option. And also, I know he's been awesome at AAA right now, production-wise, but there's a lot of issues with his game that I think people look at, especially at the chase rate. He's chasing at an obscene amount of pitches. It's almost like Alec Burleson when he first came up, and most people did not like watching Alec Burleson at the Major League level until recently, and I just don't know if he has the same upside that Burleson did. So I'm rooting for him. I hope the best for him, but he's probably a first base DH only. So I think it's more just 2026. The Cardinals are kind of stuck right here, but this might be one of the first positions they can look at and say, okay, we know we need a new solution long term. While there's a multiple other positions on the roster right now, I think they're starting to feel like, okay, we have our right fielder in Jordan Walker, we have our shortstop in Mason Wynn, our second baseman in J.J. Weatherholt, but clearly third base is a position of need moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, and you're right. I mean, ultimately, fans have to realize and understand is that what this season is. Yes, they're maybe playing a little bit above expectations. They're playing some good ball. You want to win. At the same time, you got to figure out what you have in these guys, and you got to give them the ultimate opportunity. And look, Gorman's going to get that. And as of right now, I think maybe you just split time with when Urias comes back. You split time with righty versus lefty pitcher who's going to go out and play, and then hope you can catch some lightning in a bottle here. But like if nothing else, like you said, okay, you figure out Gorman's not it. Then we got to figure out another option at the trade deadline or next year and beyond. So
Yeah, and they're not the same situation, but I think it's important for people to remember, this time last year, most people were out on Jordan Walker, and it shifted and it changed. And so I do think it's worth giving this new player development group and coaching staff the benefit of the doubt that they might be able to make a shift there. But I also do think the Cardinals recognize Gorman has had plenty of opportunity at this point, and so if a better option emerges, they will go to it. But right now there isn't one, and so they're saying, hey, like, this is probably our best option long-term right now, or probably our best option for long-term success. Even if we don't think it's going to work out, that's the direction we're going to go, and I don't blame them.
And I guess that leads me to my next question is, you've had an opportunity to talk to Chaim Bloom the other day, kind of learn a little bit. You've assessed, what this organization has done so far. There's been, in my opinion, a little bit more aggressive moves. They've pulled the trigger on some things, maybe quicker than what they would have done in years past. I feel like so far they've been pushing the right buttons. But biggest thing that you have learned about this team, this organization so far is what?
I would say, outside of what we've seen in terms of the surprise on the field, which I think has surprised everyone, the thing that has confirmed for me what they said in public for a while is their dedication to doing this the right way. They are not going to make shortcuts. They're not going to try and do the flashy thing. They're not going to try and do the thing that's going to make them feel good today on the field, but sacrifice future gains for tomorrow. Chaim Bloom and his staff are dedicated to seeing this as a multi-year vision. Now, multi-year vision and rebuilds, I think people think of tanking like the Chicago Cubs did in the 2010s or the Houston Astros. I don't think what this Cardinals organization is going to do. I think they're going to get good pretty quick. They're already playing pretty good baseball on the field now. You see the young pitching at the minor league levels right now that is going to be a huge boost to this team. You see the young bats at the major league level and more coming, like Baez or Reniel Rodriguez. I think this rebuild, quote-unquote, is going to be pretty quick, but they're not going to do things that are going to hurt the long-term trajectory of the organization because it would feel good today. So an example of that is Joshua Baez, that they could pull that lever today. I don't know why I keep saying pull that lever today is my favorite phrase, but they could go to him in center field today and say, hey, that's the better bat option. But I think they look at what Joshua Baez is doing and saying, this guy's only played about 40 games at the AAA level. He's 2 years removed from almost playing himself out of baseball because of swing and miss issues. He is improving day by day by day, and so we're going to let him and set him up for the most possible success for a long-term trajectory of his career than to try to do the thing that's going to help us win tomorrow against the Cincinnati Reds. They care about winning against the Reds today and tomorrow and the next day, but they're not going to do anything that's going to hinder their potential of being a World Series contender in 2028, 2029. And so I think that's the thing I've been most encouraged by with this team is that they're committed to it. They're ruthless with it. They see the long-term plan, but then they attack every single day with the kind of energy that's going to be necessary to get them to that point. And again, it seemed like that's what they were going to do, but it's nice to see the proof in the pudding so far.
So Josh Jacobs, you can follow him on Twitter/X at JoshJaco98. He's a part of the Dylan the Cards podcast, Redbird Rants as well, and this year doing some work for MLB.com. Josh, I do want to touch on Hunter Dobbins. Another great outing last night, 5 innings in relief. This guy, we've seen him piggyback over the last couple of outings. He's been really good, impressive, throwing the ball well. The biggest key for him really is throwing strikes. He's been doing that for the most part. I wonder what you think could be the plan for Hunter Dobbins going forward. They do have a stretch where they have a number of games to where they could maybe use another starter. So could you see a 6-man rotation in the near future? Do you continue Dobbins piggybacking? Do you just have him kind of in that whatever you need role out of the bullpen? But he's a guy, in my opinion, that right now needs to stay. And I'm curious what you think Dobbins' role could be going forward.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to watch. I honestly was a little bit surprised, but it's been fun to watch them do the piggyback thing because you look at AAA right now, and Quinn Matthews just had a really nice start, but outside of him and Bryson Motts, which I don't think they really want either of them starting quite yet at the major league level on a consistent basis, they don't have a ton of pitching depth at the AAA level, and so that's where I think Hunter Dobbins is kind of their break glass if necessary, even though he might actually be one of their best 5 right now. And so I think they'll keep him in that piggyback role for now. But Ollie was asked about this recently, about whether Hunter Dobbins' role in the Major League roster is more like Kyle Leahy from recent years, where he'll get a starting opportunity if it comes up, but he's more of a bullpen arm right now, or if this is more like Michael McGreevy from last year, where they're just trying to figure out how to get him into the rotation at some point. And he talked about how it's more like McGreevy, that unlike 2020 or to last year, 2025, where they were waiting till the very bitter end to cut ties with Eric Fetty and to go to Michael McGreevy, they're finding ways to fit in Hunter Dobbins today because they know he's earned it, he deserves it, and he makes them better today, and it's best for his development. So I think you're right. There's going to be more piggyback opportunities, especially with those Leahy starts or Liberatore starts. I think those are two times where they tend to go shorter outings at times, so to have a backup there where you can save the bullpen today, that's great. There's probably a spot start opportunity coming up for him there to give a reset to the rotation.
Yeah.
The Cardinals have been able to figure out how to keep the rotation healthy the last 2 years, going on 3 years now, which is an anomaly in today's game. So I think the rest of Major League Baseball might actually take some notes from the Cardinals and how they're handling the health of their starting pitching, and I think this is one of the ways they're doing it. And then I think toward the end of the stretch, maybe toward the All-Star break, we might see the Cardinals make a shift in their rotation, whether it's Kyle Leahy moves more into that sixth-man piggyback role, maybe even a bullpen arm at some point because the Cardinals just say, hey, we go to the Hunter Dobbins route. But I think if he continues pitching this way, it's going to be hard to keep him out of that rotation. So I'd say near term, piggyback, sixth start. But once we get closer to the All-Star break, we could see the Cardinals decide to throw him into the rotation, especially if a guy like Quinn Matthews and Bryson Motts are pitching well, because at that point, the Cardinals are going to try and fit those guys in at some point too. So this is another example of how the Cardinals are handling things differently than they have in past years, where they've been overly cautious with some of those arms. They will hold on to the veteran over the young guy 9 times out of 10. Seems like the Cardinals are saying, hey, when a young arm that we have a lot of optimism around is producing and looks ready, we're going to go to him.
Yeah, those are good options to have, Josh. So that is good problems. Man, you've been killing it. Keep it up. Keep up the good work, Josh. Really appreciate you joining me this morning, and just have a good – hey, go get the Cardinals a win today, will you?
I don't know if I'll be able to do that, but I'll try. So I appreciate you having me on, Rusty. It's always good chatting with you, and looking forward to chatting again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, Josh. Take care, man.
You too.
All right, Josh Jacobs again. Appreciate him for joining us again. He has some work on MLB.com, Dylan the Cards podcast. You know, he's very prominent, on social media, YouTube. You can check him out a lot of different places, and he's doing a lot of good work. He puts in a lot of time to cover the Cardinals, so appreciate Josh, and had some good things there to say as well.